information about repetition being the key, but I've always heard and seen many, many times that you have to have your message in front of an individual at least 3 times before they will even notice your message. Personally, I believe with a lot of messages, it can be 6, 9, 10, 20 times before you really recognize it. But most advertising studies will tell you that you've got to get in front of your consumer, your customer, at least 3 times before they notice you, your product, your service. After they've noticed you, then they've got to hear you. So it takes another 3 times before they'll hear your message. After they hear you, it takes another 3 times before they listen. So you're talking about reaching out to the public that you want to influence at least 9 times before they start to pay attention, before they get to that process where they can make a decision that they want to either follow your recommendations, purchase your product, buy into your theme, your approach. There are some ways to shorten this, and one of the real key opportunities we have here in this room is through the third-party endorsement. The media right now is very interested in what's going on with water quality, with lawn care, with pest control. As I mentioned, or somebody mentioned yesterday, the Wall Street Journal ran 2 pages on lawn care just a couple of weeks ago. And I saw where they ran another story on lawn care, I think it was last Saturday, had nothing to do with applications or anything like that, but it was how lawn care can be hazardous to your health because you can slip and fall and stupid things like that. It's just amazing some of the stuff that the media will pick up on. But that kind of public relations, that kind of word of mouth is what we in marketing communications call the third-party endorsement. Because research also shows that people will believe a message from a friend or a relative or an associate much more quickly than they will if it's in an advertisement or even if it's a news story. A news story does have that objectivity that an ad doesn't have. So that third-party endorsement is really important in very good ways to speed the process. So once you've heard the message, once you've learned what's being said, you decide how do you react. And this is that third-party discussion I was talking about. Who are you influenced by? Your family, friends, peers, the media. So you've heard the message. You've learned what the message is really trying to say. You've decided to agree or disagree with the message. And that's one of the challenges, again, we face here in this room. There are going to be some messages that people will hear and say, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. A healthy lawn is good for the environment. But some people may say, well, that means you have to put lots of pesticides and lots of fertilization on the lawn, and then that can't be true. So there's a lot of explanation that goes in as you move forward. But now you can act. And if you agree, you modify your behavior to reflect the message, and you make the decision to either adopt the process that you're promoting or purchase the product that you're promoting, and a very key step. We talked a little bit about reinforcing. After you make that decision, the first thing that most people will do is say, oh man, was that the right thing to do? I mean, how many of you bought a new car or a new TV and gotten it home and said, man, maybe I should have got that Toyota Prius instead of the Hummer. It just goes on constantly. People, the mind is just an amazing thing, but people are always second guessing. Regardless of the scientific facts behind it, people are always second guessing. So you've got to be aware of that cognitive dissonance and make sure that you constantly reassure your customer that I made the right decision, that this is the right thing to do, and even more importantly in many cases, that those that are close to me agree that the Prius was a better decision than the Hummer, and things like that. So, you got to keep all that in mind, and that has to become part of your communications campaign. Just because you start to reach people and they start to convert to your program or your process or your product, if you stop and don't reinforce that continually, your competitor is out there with their messages. They're trying to go through the same processes. So it's not a one-shot kind of deal. So advertising, one way you can get your message out there. I mean, we all know what advertising is. It's paid space. It costs money, but it's your message, and it's exactly when and usually where you want it. So it has to be an important part of everything you do, anything you do, to market your program or products. We talked about you've got to reach people at least 9 times, and if you know your customer base goes by, goes down the 405 freeway every day, how can you reach them? Billboards, things like that. Do your research. They read the New York Times every morning. They read the Wall Street Journal. They read the different publications. So there is a way to get your message out there when you want it, but it can be very expensive. And my suspicion is that most of the university folks here don't have very big budgets to do that. I know even with the Gator Nation, I like to joke with people at Florida. When I was I also worked for Bombardier. They make personal watercraft and snowmobiles and jet boats and things like that. We had an $85 million ad budget back in the late 1980s. And I tell my peers today and the president of Florida, Bernie Matchett, I say, we spent more money on a Saturday during the NCAA basketball tournament at Bombardier than we do at the University of Florida in 3 years for marketing. And I think, you guys are probably very much in the same situation. So that's why we get back to public relations, and where public relations can be a really important tool for you. So public relations doesn't have the kind of guarantees that advertising has. Does anybody have a definition for public relations, what it is? Anybody care to offer an idea? Nobody? Does anybody in here do public relations? There we got somebody in the back. Do you have public relations teams that work for you at the university or at your company? I can't believe that you don't do public relations.
Are you kidding? I mean, I don't know what everybody else thinks, but I think that it is the biggest thing we do. This is what we do the worst. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think Extension would even know where to begin in even saying, oh, let's get somebody to help us with public relations. Mm-hmm. I think we don't even, I think the worst part about it is we think we're actually pretty good at it.
Yeah.
My sense, I think Extension, in some ways, I've heard people say, it's kind of good this way because if too many people find out about us, we won't be able to handle the need.
Mm-hmm. Could I respond?
Yeah.
I just wanted to share, I think I was just sharing with Marion, I'm currently working on a watershed project, a watershed management plan project.
I think it's on.
Okay. In which we actually wrote into the budget a public relations element for our university. And what really turned the tables was we went to them and said, hey, here's some money, and here's what we want to do. And they ended up, instead of having one more thing to do, being really excited about the possibility of marketing the university in terms of its effect on those who aren't actually at the school. But I really felt like writing it into the grant and putting it from that level was something that was
But isn't it surprising that the university said to you, boy, we're really glad you're going to do that.
Yeah.
We don't do it.
I have to say, coming from a smaller grant university than Cornell, which is shared with Jennifer, for us in Rhode Island, when I say I discussed this scientific issue with my colleagues at Cornell, that adds credibility. So, I think Cornell, whether you realize it or not, and just stepping back from a distance, a few hundred miles, you guys throw a lot of PR. It's not necessarily focused on your issue, but I think one of the issues we have here as a group is so many of us are from land-grant universities, and is that something that we can use? Are we actually a source of credible scientific information, which is what, when we go back to our roots, that's what we're supposed to,
Yeah.
to be.
Well, I think, one of the things that I hope maybe we can walk away with at the end of the day today are some ideas that we can take back